Special Agent Dave, founder of Halloween Year Round, logging into this Zoom session. I am a special agent with the Department of Homeland Security in the Counterterrorism Division. I'm here monitoring the internet for things that are terrorizing the American people, and I have found something that is. It is a new adaptation of War of the World. What? From the director of the bunch of Eminem music videos? Okay. Anyways, I'm officially reporting this to the government because this is a movie that might just be the worst movie ever made, and I am reporting it on behalf of the American people to protect them from this. A movie that they definitely should not watch unless they want to laugh at how hilariously bad it is for 90 minutes. That somehow seems too long, but not enough time to get into everything they're trying to do. This is War of the Worlds.
I'm coming for you now!
I wasn't lying. Rich Lee really did direct some of these music videos. So it's weird that a guy that made those, which are genuinely really, really good, could make a movie like this. A movie that I normally don't do. I'm not one of those critics who's like, oh, I'll never write a negative review. Like, no, if the movie's bad, I'll call it out. I did stop doing worst lists because I thought that they were mean spirited. But this is a movie that it's not like it was some up and coming indie filmmaker trying to do something that I'm just, dog piling on and mocking them, unfairly for. This is a studio movie with actual studio money and Ice Cube in the lead role that just got past a whole lot of people saying, "Yup, this looks good. This we're we're signing off on this." So we open with Ice Cube. I'm just going to call him Ice Cube, attending these Zoom meetings. He's apparently the only counterterrorism Department of Homeland Security agent working at all because we never see him talk to any others. We never see him coordinating with anything else. And it feels like he's the only guy ever reporting to the president or the director of Homeland Security. And oh, by the way, I'm going to spoil this because who cares? So when in the beginning, when he's not spying on and stalking his two adult children using government surveillance, well, he's just checking in on stuff going on when weird weather stuff from NASA's happening. Ava Longoria's there, probably regretting her choices, probably regretting the fact that this movie didn't stay shelved on someone's hard drive since 2020 and actually got a release randomly 5 years later. It was made during the COVID era, and that's why everything was over Zoom. And I have to wonder what caused them to release it now in a universe where we'll never get to see Batgirl, but this gets released. That just doesn't seem fair. So, in typical War of the Worlds fashions, aliens show up. The only thing it really, I think, adapts from War of the Worlds is the fact that they are on tripods and that it is kind of a virus. Spoilers, it's a computer virus that ends up killing them, which they didn't just steal from War of the Worlds. They also kind of stole from Independence Day, which, fine, Independence Day kind of stole from War of the Worlds, whatever. Call it an homage, call it a tribute versus a ripoff. The issue with this is not that it's War of the Worlds. In fact, if anything, I think this movie would have done better as like a Sci-Fi Channel original movie, not War of the Worlds, just its own thing. Because when you invoke that name, which you're only legally allowed to do because the book was published in the late 1800s and it's obviously in public domain, you also invite inevitable comparisons to the 1950s movie, to the 1930s Orson Welles radio drama that was kind of blown out of proportion. Even the 2005 Tom Cruise movie, which I feel like after watching this, we all owe that movie an apology for thinking that it wasn't a masterpiece, because by comparison, it is. When the aliens attack, we literally spend, this is like a giant global event that we're just watching Ice Cube on a computer screen talk his way through it. and get exposition dump news stories about how the war, the tides are turning. Now this is happening. Now this is happening. Things that normally would take weeks or months, but are happening in the span of 90 minutes. Because again, we're watching this movie in real time. And when they actually drop the name War of the Worlds, they're like, the world response, we are calling this the War of the Worlds. You just cringe more than you're like, ah, that's cool how they work the title in there. I like Ice Cube. I think he's really funny in the Friday movies and the ride along movies. He is a very talented actor. He is not giving his best work here. I don't know if it was a matter of he was just seeing these lines for the first time. I don't know if it was a matter of he was strong armed into doing this. I don't know if it was a matter of it was the COVID lockdown and he was just eager to do something to pass the time, or he was worried about, the future of Hollywood. And he thought, well, it's a paycheck. Why not? But to say that he's phoning it in is an understatement. The fact that his character does everything from a computer screen kind of feels fitting just how much he not phones it in, he emails it in. No, he snail mails it in. He wrote his performance down on a letter, put a stamp on it, sealed it, and dropped it in a mailbox to be delivered 2 to 3 days later. That's how phoned in his performance feels here. You've also randomly got Clark Gregg as like the director of Homeland Security, who, surprise, he's the bad guy because he knew that their new Goliath espionage program, which doesn't sound that different from regular surveillance. Here's the thing, the movie wants to have this theme of like security versus freedom. And cool, that's an interesting thing to explore. That's arguably more relevant now in 2025 than it was in 2020. Won't get into that. But on paper or on Zoom, that's not an inherently bad thing to want to explore. The issue comes from them acting like, oh, the government reading our emails and surveilling us is this new groundbreaking bombshell of a report, when it feels like even in 2020, this was almost a decade after Edward Snowden. And even when Edward Snowden, made his findings public and exposed it all, most of us were like, "Oh yeah, well we kind of figured they were doing it." Like we figured they were doing that back in like 2003. Dan Brown, author of the Da Vinci Code, wrote a novel called Digital Fortress, which basically is the Edward Snowden story in 1998. So for them to treat that like it's this giant bombshell is just laughable. The fact that this guy who has spent his life and his career in government and trust the government, we know what we're doing, and only bad people need to fear it. For him to turn so quickly, finding out that his son is this major hacker called the Disruptor that he's been trying to arrest for a while, and then just joining them, it any one of these things would be worthy of like oh well, this kind of drags the movie down because it does this. It's all of them together, and it's the fact that the movie itself feels like it was an obligation to be made. I don't know the story behind the scenes, but just about every person in it feels like maybe it was the months of lockdown and quarantine that got to people's heads, that they're like, is this the future of cinema? Not knowing that we would be watching it 5 years later after all of that had been lifted and we remembered what movies could be like again. It's also not even just that he gets his access revoked and somehow is still it's established he's in a locked down government building, gets his access revoked. He gets his ass handed to him. But then his son like gets it back, but there's like no one in the government building to arrest him even when they're telling him he's now an enemy of the state and all that. But he's literally in a lockdown government building that apparently has zero other people in it. And it's not even just that the CGI is absolutely awful, something that look, I know I'm kinda jumping on the bandwagon. I know the whole internet is roasting this movie right now, and rightfully so. I think it's that we feel like it deserves to be taken down a peg, because here's the thing, I would feel bad relentlessly mocking this movie, its horrible performances, its bad CGI, its high school understanding of geopolitics. It's the fact that it was made by professional adults with studio money that makes me think like you guys know how to do all this better. Like, if it was a film student's college final project, I'd be like, "All right, you know what? This student has a bright future because this on paper, this is a cool concept of like watching the War of the Worlds, but from the internet and the way that like people tweet about it, post about it, and the way that the internet alters our perception of what's happening in the world around us." But that's not what this movie does, though. It misses every single mark, and it was made by people who are professional enough, have the resources to have made it better. So it's why I don't feel bad making fun of it. It's why, and I'm disclosing a lot here. I wrote a novel all the way back when I was like 20 years old, and it was about aliens invading Earth, but surprise, the aliens were dinosaurs. It was called Dino Future. I still may go back and rewrite it, but the original version I wrote, I started when I was in high school. And this movie reminded me of it, not in the I didn't have Ice Cube as the lead in it, but just in my high school, college, very narrow view of geopolitics and the way that like wars and countries act and operate. This movie reminded me of that. It was like, "Oh, this feels like something I wrote in high school. Oh, that's not a good thing." But am I telling you not to watch this movie? Absolutely not. It's hilarious. It's the room levels of bad, and if you're the kind of person that I read someone, I think it was a tweet that said, whether a movie has 100% or 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, either way, that warrants checking out. And this is one of those rare cases that has that 0%, I think earns its 0% and will be the fodder of riff tracking for years to come. But hey, these are just my thoughts. Let me know in the comments. Did you watch this movie? What did you think of it? What was your favorite hilariously awful moment in it? Like, share, subscribe, all the YouTube stuff. If you don't, you may end up being trapped in War of the Worlds. No, not the intergalactic invasion of aliens on Earth, being trapped in a movie like this that will be on your resume for the rest of time. And as always, every day is Halloween.